Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm your host, Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
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 So this is your pick of game again this week, and your choice was Max Payne 3.
Yeah, what a game. I think the reason I picked this game, coincidentally, it's exactly halfway between the release of the previous game we've done and now. So it's 10 years old, which is weird. But also, this is probably one of my favourite games. So that's why I brought it on. And I'm ready for you to put it low on the list or rip it to shreds.
Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves and start thinking of a list yet. We got a lot of talking to do before we get to that. So so the Max Payne 3, obviously, this one was made by Rockstar Games, whereas previously the first two games were made by Remedy. Came out on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PC, and Mac.
Yeah. Did it?
Yeah, two Mac users. I found this out a second ago when you were checking this out. And then, as you said, so it came out in 2012.
Yeah, and also up to this point, it was the biggest budget Rockstar had ever put into a game. So this was their most expensive game when it came out.
So did it come out after GTA 4 or before?
So it came out after 4, just before 5.
Okay, so this was a bigger budget than GTA 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it in the game. Like, we'll get to it. Like, you can see where it's made because it took 6 years for them to make. They didn't mean for it to take 6 years. It kind of kept getting delayed again. So before we kind of get straight into Max Payne 3, like, were you a fan of the series before? Did you play Max Payne 1 and 2?
I did, but I wasn't really. I thought they were okay, but I think I was really young when they came out, so I was like, these are just really difficult, and I don't really know why they're so hard. But then Max Payne 3, I remember seeing in magazines and stuff at the time, and I was like, this looks unbelievably good.
Okay, so you're really just focused on 3.
Because they revealed his whole, like, transformation, the part where he changed his head. That was, like, all they put in the marketing. They didn't put anything else. So you thought it was going to be entirely that, and then obviously that turned out to only be a small bit. So.
It was one of, like, the first unreasonable, like, overblown controversies in video games, where people just angry because he's not wearing the trench coat and his hair's short. It's not him anymore.
And his stupid tie.
So I played Max Payne 1, but I played it on the PlayStation 2, which probably wasn't the best place to play. But I remember really enjoying it at the time. Like, I remember being impressed by it, because I remember it was one of the first games, and probably one of the few that still does this, where, like, if you shot a bullet, it would be an actual bullet would go through the air. It'd be too quick for you to see, but you could, like, pause the game, and then, like, the camera would spin around, and you could see, like, the bullets in the air and the bullet cases coming down and the light flash, and I was like, that's so cool. And that's, like, my memory of Max Payne 1. And there is a bit of that carried across here.
I played a bit. I remember there was, like, a Fun House or, like, Captain Baseball Bat Boy, the two things I remember from the old ones, but they might be from the second one. I don't have much other memories of the
I never played 2. I remember also from number 1, there's kind of the infamous scene where it's kind of like a dream and you're following, like, a trail of blood, and then you can fall off in this horrible screen. That moment quite obviously stands out for me. And then I remember, like, being in, like, a subway, like a train underground place.
I think that's, like, the opening level, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, that's probably why I remember it. But I did finish it. I mean, it was back in the day where if you bought a game, no matter what, you'd finish it because you didn't have any money.
The one game you got that year.
Yeah. So I would have finished it because I finished everything. And I did play Max Payne 3 back in the day as well. So good for me doing this. I already owned it. I just put my disc in. So did you play on, did you play on Xbox?
Well, I jumped around. So I played on Xbox, and then I also played a little bit on PC because I just got a PC. Yeah, and I played some of the co-op on PC as well. I didn't do that on console. So
okay, so I've not played any of, like, the multiplayer stuff. So it'd be good to hear about that a little bit later on. But first, do you want to kind of just people are seeing footage on screen, but kind of just sort of sum up kind of the setting and what this game is?
So basically, you play as a guy called Max Payne, which is a great name for a start. And he is a police officer turned bodyguard security man. He works for, like, this awful family in Brazil who are, like, mega rich party goers, and he's basically their bodyguard with a guy called Passos who he meets in New York, takes him out there. And the game, you kind of go from place to place. All you need to do is shoot enemies, and stay alive. There's not really any puzzles. There's no like dialogue options. There's nothing like that. You literally just move.
Actually, I pressed a couple buttons that open doors. It's funny, they kind of set them up as a puzzle. It's like, oh, I need to work out a way to open this door. Then there's like the door open button. Like, it really,
and then he says things like, oh, I'm getting really good at this. Like,
there's a few lines where he's like, they like in between them, and they're like, oh, like what am I, like the button press expert or something? And he's like, yeah, keep it up.
But yeah, just a third-person shooter, really. But I really feel like it's the kind of the pinnacle of the third-person shooter. And I don't personally think anything's beaten this yet. Like, that's why I love it so much. I feel like it's barely aged a day in 10 years. So
if you were picking out like an aspect that is making you think that, is it the gameplay, the story, or the style, or is it just the combination of all three? I think
it's a combination of all of them. Like, I was watching some YouTube videos about Max Payne 3 before we started recording, and there was one guy saying like, this is Rockstar firing on all cylinders at the same time. Like, the writing's really good, the graphics are really good for the time. I mean, they still look pretty good even 10 years on. Like, the gameplay is good. Like, the controls are really tight. Like, the music, oh my god, yeah, the music's amazing. The music is so good. Yeah, so I don't know. I just think I think it's up there, and it can hold its own against things like Uncharted and.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that, because obviously when you think of Rockstar, you think of, open world, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, even Bully, is open world. But it's always been like games where they've got a great open world, but as soon as you get to the missions, they kind of forget that they're an open world game, and they get really linear. And if you slightly deviate, they're like, mission failed because the pig fell asleep or whatever. They just come up with some reason for the mission to fail. And, like, so in a way, like, I think that's kind of one of the worst parts of them of those open world games. But on Max Payne, because it's such like a linear game, it kind of seems to fit their mission design better, because they almost just feel like a GTA mission, but there isn't just an invisible barrier that if you cross over, it's just going to say you failed.
Yeah, obviously the game does have a couple of like dud areas that aren't amazing, but like overall I think it's aged really, really well, and it's still so much fun to play. Like, I don't even know how many times I've finished this game, but obviously it's just come to Xbox backwards compatibility, so I've just started playing it again. But yeah, I mean, it's just a banger. I don't really know what to say.
Well, let's split that up into sections then. So I kind of want to talk about the story and kind of just like the artistic design before we kind of get into the gameplay. So it's kind of told. It's got such a style where there's a lot of like voiceover from Max Payne, like retrospective voiceover kind of. It was almost like he's telling you a story, and it's full of like witty lines and puns. Yeah. Do you love all that stuff?
Absolutely. I think it carries the game. Like, I think Max, because the story is not that complicated. It's quite straightforward. Most of the people in it are awful, horrible people, but he kind of carries it on his own, because it's like, every time he says something, you're like, it's like it's funny. Like, he is such a unique outlook on life for a video game character as well. Like, he is so negative, but also like, he's pretty funny. Like, the stuff that he comes out with.
Yeah, I think especially at the beginning because he's like, so like he's just basically here for just some easy money and hopefully a chill time, and he's bodyguarding all these, kind of rich people that are in this poverty-stricken area, and all they want to do is like go to clubs, and they're all kind of a bit one-dimensional people, and he's just sort of like, what am I doing? And like, there's this line about like with the electronic music and robotic people, like when he goes into the club and he's basically just drinking just to like get through it. And I think that's probably when it's at its strongest. I did find with some of those lines, I felt like some of them were, I don't know, they were trying a bit too hard. Like, some of them kind of reminded me a bit of like dad jokes and like puns. Like when you go to like the football stadium and they try to fit as many references to football as in like, oh, we're all going to be leaving in the box soon and so like this. And it wants to be like so cool and clever, and it's trying so hard to show how cool and clever it is. And the worst thing to do to look cool is to be trying really hard to look cool. And I think sometimes, like, I kind of enjoyed it because I was kind of like laughing and rolling my eyes at it rather than being like earnestly like, yeah, that's so cool. What, like stick it to the man.
But I feel like he kind of knows it as well, because he's got that line where he's like, I felt like an avenging angel, but I look like a fat gringo. Like, he kind of knows that he's a loser.
Well, okay, if we're doing this, there's a few quotes.
Oh, I've got a thing about quotes later on as well. So let's not go too far ahead. Yeah,
we'll leave quotes for now. So there was some that I thought were generally well written, but like, well, what some of it gave me. So that in combination, there's like this weird style it's going for. It's doing this constant like sort of flashing color effect. Mm-hmm. Those watching the video podcast will be seeing it on screen. Like, do you like it's overdone, right?
I know, I liked it. I remember every time it came up and I was in a gunfight and it was like flashing from taking painkillers or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like the cutscenes.
Oh, you mean in the cutscenes, like with the words coming up and stuff like that?
Yeah, the words were... So yeah, that's one thing. So when you was talking, it would emphasize certain words. But I swear they just use a random generator to pick which words. They'll be like, we're going to the roof, and it'll be like, would be the word they'd emphasize or something.
I think like they tend to just put it up when there's no movement. So when they're kind of just saying something, it will just appear then. And then if they move in the next scene, there won't be any words there because they just had something on the screen that was a bit more interesting. But I feel like it was a callback to Max Payne 1 and 2 was like a comic book.
Comic strip, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, how can we modernize that? Let's do
but I feel like it loses any impact. I feel like it would be fine if it chose the important words and used it more sparingly. And then the same with that kind of glitchy kind of color warping effect that they keep doing as well. Like, I feel like do it when he's in the club or do it when he's like drinking and taking painkillers because it's shown. But then it would be doing it in like some scenes when it'd be cut and like Max Payne isn't even there, or when Max Payne is like meant to be sober and they just keep the effects. And like what it reminded me of, and this isn't like a diss to anyone because I'm in this boat as well, of like a college media studies like final film where like they've learned about how to do all of these effects and they've seen all of these examples and they're just trying to fit as much of it in as they can just to show that they can do it, but like not really thinking about the intent and purpose of why they're adding it. It's just like, this would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, well, for me it was like every time I saw it I was reminded like, oh yeah, this guy is actually either incredibly hungover or out of it, and I'd be like, oh, that situation's bad, but imagine being like, you know, feeling unwell at the same time. Like, it's just like, oh god.
I just feel like it was used too much, and then when he does get sober, and then there's times when it's cutting and it's like not even him in the scene, and then they're still doing it. That's what kind of robbed it from it kind of showing his mood. They kind of seem to be used at quite random times, and I think that was a problem. But there's so much of the transitions that are really slick. Even like the opening where it's like the menu and he's sitting there, and then you press start and it goes straight into a cutscene, and then in even that cutscene it then brings up a menu to pick like your key settings, like inverted camera, and then goes straight back in. Like all of the production values on that stuff is so nice and so well done.
Also the split screens, it does quite a lot of split screens and like things coming in. It's a very unique look, I think.
Yeah. And then even to this day.
Yeah. It looks like a stinky game. That's all I can describe it as. Like, it looks like it reeks. But like in a good way. It's a very atmospheric, stinky game.
The standout transition for me is there's a bit where one of the people he's, spoiler alert as always for all these games, one of the people he's trying to protect dies, and he basically makes a comment about like he's standing over someone he meant to protect that's died, and then it transitions to him looking over the grave of where his wife and daughter is, and it's a really like smooth transition, and then there's a cutscene, then you get into a gunfight, and then the grave is the only thing in front of you, so you automatically take cover on it. And then you're using that grave as cover, but then it's getting destroyed, and like I thought, like I was like, well, that was a moment. I'm always after my moments, and I kind of wanted more of that kind of stuff where the gameplay comes into the style.
Max Payne 3 has probably got more moments than any other game I can think of. Like, this game has so many moments that, like, when I was trying to recall them, I was like, oh yeah, that's all of them. And I watched a video and I was like, how did I forget about, you know, these four? Like the bit where he jumps on the trolley. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, and he's sliding.
Sliding along, or like hanging onto the hook.
Yeah,
like crazy. The bit where the boat jumps out and you're firing out the side of the boat. Like, there is just a lot going on in this game, and I feel like it's kind of, even though there's a lot of cutscenes, it's still quite pacey and quite relentless. And also, it doesn't take a lot to die either, so it's always quite like white knuckle. Like,
it's quite brutally hard. So before we kind of go fully into gameplay, like the narrative itself, Like, did that do anything for you? Did you get the big twist? Did that shock you, or
is this
was
the
it
thing
kind of
about
too long ago to remember?
Being betrayed?
Yeah.
So I actually, at first, this is kind of weird. I feel like it's a bit early in the podcast to be talking about this, but I was like, the only way this game could ever have a good ending is if Max dies at the end. That's the only ending I'd ever want. But then actually, I've watched a guy on YouTube. His name was Shycorn, and he did a video about it, and he said that the twist of Max being betrayed is so obvious and so foreshadowed, there's no way that would ever be the twist. And the actual twist is that he has a happy ending. Because no one ever expects it, but that's what happens at the end. So like he showed some of the cutscenes and was like, look how the other characters are acting. Like when Max phones them and is like, oh yeah, I'm alive, they're not like, oh yay, they're literally looking at each other like, oh no, like, and they're meant to be the good guys. So yeah, I thought that was quite a interesting way of looking at it. Obviously,
yeah. Do you think that was intentional, or is that was just because games of those day, it would be very rare for the protagonist to die in that kind of game. Like, do you think there's that
I mean, I
there?
thought that's where it was going, and then obviously Rockstar did Red Dead.
Yeah,
spoilers for that as well. I feel like that. To be honest, I was like, that's the only good ending it could ever have. And then when you do actually get to the ending, and he's just there on the beach,
I think I would have expected that if I didn't think that they were trying to like rebuild the franchise and wanted to do more of them.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be hard to kill off, the series is called Max Payne. Like, you kind of need him unless they just go for
are they going to do another one? I don't know if they are.
No, I don't think they're working on anything now, especially how long they take games. But I'm sure when they went into it, they were, it was the first time a new studio was working on it, and they were kind of, revamping it a little bit. I'm sure they had a discussion with some shareholders that are like, hey, if this comes like the biggest thing ever, we want to do more of these.
I wish it did. I mean, the series is amazing. Although I don't really know where they could go from here, to be honest.
Yeah. So for the story itself then, like, I felt like if I was reading this in a book, I don't think I'd find it as an amazing book. I think it is kind of held up a lot by the style and the presentation.
Yeah,
do you agree with that?
The thing is with video game stories is I don't really think they're that good, and they're kind of only really good because you're in it.
Yeah.
So this is like intense because you're in the middle of it. But if you're watching it in a film, it would be like, this is stupid.
Like it's got its moments, but then there's so many times where it would be like this villain guy would show up, and I'm like, oh, which one are you? Like I can't remember any of them now. And then they make a big, and then you kill him straight away, and I'm like, oh wait, that was it. I'm like, wait, which one's the baddie now? What's the main one? Like,
but it was quite shocking, like how willing they were to just kill people off, though.
Yeah,
like every time, even though I've played through it before, I was still like, oh my god, like because they would just kill main characters
the people
off, like
you're trying
nothing.
to protect.
Yeah,
and and that is, I think especially at the time going against the grain where it was, they're going to say. I mean, there's like missions where there's basically no other story than you're trying to protect someone, and you reach them, and they either just get taken away again or they get killed, and like that's all that level was. Was like most games it will end and say mission successful, you scored an A rank, and this is how great you did. This one's like, you did everything, but you still everything went wrong still, and that was quite different.
They'd kill them off like they were nothing. It wouldn't even be like a big thing. It would just be like bang, oh they're gone. And then you just move on to the next thing. Well, obviously Max is like, whoops. Like, he doesn't just gloss over it, but the fact that there's not even like a big build up or anything, they just literally take them out like they're nothing. Yeah.
So should we go to go to gameplay then?
Yeah.
So it's a third person shooter, cover shooter, but then also you have slow motion. Obviously, it's kind of a staple of Max Payne, and then a slow motion dive as well. What did you think of the gunplay?
So I think the gunplay is amazing. Like the fact that your first bullet is always 100% accurate is like so satisfying for like, because you can just line up shots and they're all going to hit because they're all like, your crosshair's the tiniest little pixel ever, and your first shot's always going to hit exactly where that is. The diving, I didn't really use that much because I'd dive and then hit something.
Yeah, but the environments are so small. Yeah.
But the slow motion, just using it as you go, just the standard slow motion was like brilliant. It's just, I really like this game, man. Like, it's so cool. Like, I get that the slow motion isn't anything. Like, I looked it up. Is it meant to be like something that he can do? But it says in the instruction manual for the PC version that he's just concentrating. So I guess it's nothing. I thought it was like because he's so drugged up and drunk all the time that he kind of like sees the slow motion, but no.
Yeah, so I struggled with the shooting a bit. So I found, what aiming, because there's loads of options for like your aiming.
Yeah.
So I played through the whole thing on a controller.
Yeah.
What settings did you have for your aiming?
Soft lock, I think.
Yeah, the default.
Mm-hmm.
So with this game, like headshots are crucial, especially later on in the game. Like enemies are just like, you put a whole clip into them almost and they don't die into the chest because they've got all body armor and stuff. So you have to get headshots. But then when you lock on, it always locks onto the chest. And then I always found it super awkward to like, from after locking onto the chest to go up to like get the headshot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, okay, maybe if I just turn soft lock off and just free aim. But then with free aim, obviously I'm using a controller, so it's going to be a bit difficult anyway. But then it's got the like aim acceleration. So you start moving slow, then it gets faster, which made it super. So I turned that all the way down. And then even with that all the way down, but the sensitivity up, you just turn like super slow. So
really?
I never found. So in the end, I went back to soft lock. But I struggle with it so much. You're just constantly like locking onto like enemies that are like behind walls, or like I'd go to aim at one person and would aim at someone else, and then I'm trying to juggle up to the head. Like I battled with the aim the whole way through the game.
That's crazy. I didn't struggle at all. Not once.
Like I don't mean I failed to do it, but I felt like I was wrestling with the game to get it to do what I wanted it to do.
The only time I'd have that problem is when you get shot but you have painkillers, you can kind of do like a last stand. Sometimes that would like flick and the guy would be behind a wall and I'd be like,
or like there'd be three of them, and so if you kill the person who shot you, you can then stay back alive. But sometimes it'd be like three of them in a row, and it's just like lucky dip. Are you gonna get the right one? Or I'd be reloading. It'd be like, quick, here's your chance to shoot them, and I'm in slow mo going just like reloading my gun.
Yeah, I don't like that last stand thing is not a very good idea. It just doesn't really work. But in terms of the controls, I had no issues because I maybe because I've played it so many times that I kind of
because it's different. I've not played. I mean, the only comparable thing is games like GTA and Red Dead, which do the same thing, where you lock onto the body. But I found in like say Red Dead 2, you lock into the body and it's a very natural kind of flick up to the head. But for some reason, when it locked on, it always just felt like, I don't know, like I'm kind of fighting. And I think a big part as well is the animation system, which is amazing. The animation is incredible. It's so fluid, and depending on what type of cover there is and stuff, like it all feels very natural and flows in. And if you move to the side, you'll do like a full proper step rather than like a glitchy half animation. And it all looks amazing, but it does kind of, I think, make the game feel a bit, more sluggish and realistic. And I think sometimes that can come across in the aiming, where sometimes you're going to go up to aim and you'll kind of go up one way, but then you kind of have to step back and then aim. And I think that kind of just, that and like the speed that you reload and switch guns and stuff, because I feel like in one way it's trying to say like this is a super stylish game with literally like slow motion diving headshots, and then a lot of the other basic stuff like just going in and out of cover just felt like quite slow and like realistic, which kind of goes against then, because in a moment I'm shooting like a thing to make a wire lift me up and getting headshot, and I'm like, pick one, be over the top stylish, go all into that, have me throwing guns, running along walls, like sliding on my knees shooting. Either do that, be more grounded Vanquish, or go full gritty and be like Last of Us or something. I felt like it was in an awkward place in the middle for me. I kind of liked how weighty he was, and like if I do dive, I would go to dive and think like, I need to think about getting up. Because getting up is also part of it, right? Like he's not a spring chicken. He's not going to be like, woohoo, like jumping up. Like it does take him time to get up and things. And like, when you dive into a room and there's two guys, you'd be like, I can turn and shoot one, but just keep in mind that I will be on the floor for the second one. So I was kind of always thinking about it, which I quite liked. And I like the fact that he has to actually carry the guns. Yeah.
as well. So like that sort of stuff for weapon switching.
Yeah, I'm fine with the realistic side. Like I want it to be more
understand what you're
stylish,
saying.
but I want
get
it to
what you're
stay
saying,
scrappy. Keep him not looking like not looking like a kung fu movie. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want him to still be kind of stumbling and stuff, but still doing like I love it when you run to pick up a gun and he rolls and grabs it and shoots it. But like there wasn't enough of that for it to feel like a stylish game. But I wanted more things in like in that style.
Yeah, you are right. It is between like how can he slide down a roof and then grab onto a pole and swing in through a window, but he also can't get up.
yeah. I feel like it was right in the middle. Yeah, but I don't think it was awful. Another thing, we kind of spoke a little bit about how good it looks, but I think the environments are amazing. They're really, even by modern standard, like obviously some aspects, don't hold up, but like the level of detail and like interactive detail in terms of things that would like, bottles will break and glass and like you're in an office and papers spreading everywhere. Like I thought that was super cool. But then once again, because your weapon locks on, or if you're saying playing on PC with free aim, you can be so precise, click on heads. There's all this reactive stuff, but I'm very rarely shooting any of it because I'm always hitting the enemy.
But it is a spectacular to look at when you're getting shot at.
Yeah.
So you're hiding and it is literally like...
And everything's going on,
Yeah. Hell is breaking loose at all times in this game. Like it doesn't really ever slow down. Like especially that level with the IT office. With all the glass and like all the wooden paneling and everything, and there's some bits where I shoot something and it would break, and I'd be like, "Oh my god!" They actually bothered to make
and like
this
really
bit of concrete
realistically,
fall off.
Or you're being covered with like a window, and you'll go to shoot, and you'll get up and he'll smash it with his elbow first, and then shoot through. Is cool. And like comparing that to like I played the most recent Gears of War game, which looks beautiful, but it's all just like a film set. It's all fake. Like there's like a bottle on like the table and you shoot it and it just gets a bullet hole in it. It's all and that's what they need to do to make games look better. But I feel like we've kind of lost from that Xbox 360 era. It's almost like comparing the Left 4 Dead games with Back 4 Blood. Where Back 4 Blood looks amazing, but it's all static, compared to Left 4 Dead, which had realistic shadows and all the physics and stuff moving around. And I think that I care so much more about that, over ray tracing.
It's almost like the tech side of it, people don't care anymore. Maybe because the mainstream isn't interested. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it's harder to show in like a trailer, I guess, or a screenshot, because it's more, it feels more closely tied to the gameplay rather than just the graphics. Even though the graphics do help with immersion, I feel like I would much have a reactive world compared to like a beautiful world, which I feel like I'm just, looking at rather than being in.
There was a bit with a water tower and I did the thing where you like shoot up, like halfway up and let it drain down, and then I shot lower and it drained out. And I was like, yeah. And it's just like a water tower in the background. I was just like shooting at it. But yeah, no, the favela area as well with all of the like, there's just so much stuff everywhere, so much detail.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it even runs on the Xbox 360, to be honest with you.
That was actually one of my standout moments was when you I think it's when you first go to the favelas before you're shooting and you're just walking through the favelas and Max Payne is just like, God, I'm such an idiot. I'm just like this dumb American walking through here. I don't speak the language. I'm trying to I'm asking these people for help and they're all just like, go away with not quite as lovely language. And he's just like, yeah, fair enough. Like, well, I wouldn't help me if I was there.
God, I really felt his pain so much when he was like standing in the nightclub or whatever it is, like in the favela street party, and he's literally just swinging his arms like, like it's so. I was like, oh my god! And then he gets mugged, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
And then you see that guy later on. He's got his sunglasses on.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's a cool touch. Yeah, that was one of the stuff, but there wasn't much of that because mostly it's cutscenes and then shooting gameplay is really all there is. I started to get a bit fatigued with the shooting by the end.
I mean, there was a bit of a difficulty spike at the end, wasn't there?
Oh, like, in the airport level.
I feel like it kind of started at the police station.
Yeah.
It really went like I was suddenly dying 5 or 6 times a fight rather than not at all ever, which is what the rest of the game I just breezed through. And I got to that point and I was like, what's happening? Why is it suddenly so hard?
What difficulty were you playing on?
That normal, whatever the normal one was.
Okay, so I was playing on normal as well. until the point you're talking about at the police station. So
Yeah.
basically, I was playing on normal, and then it got to a really cool moment. I was like, well, it was almost a cool moment. So they got to a bit where they fill the room with smoke,
Yeah,
and then a bunch of people
yeah.
come in with like laser sights. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool. They're like shaking it up in some way to, to make it different. But then I just pressed aim and I was just locking onto everyone, so it didn't matter.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just I killed everyone. I didn't see a single one of them, but I just expertly took
Do
them
you know
all
what?
out.
I'm thinking maybe I didn't use soft lock after all.
So
because-
on PC, you probably wouldn't have because you
Yeah.
have free aim. So I thought I should play on PC. But anyway, I picked up one of their guns with this laser sight, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But then it takes away your crosshair.
Yeah,
and then I was
it's
trying to
useless.
shoot with
laser
it, and the
sight is
laser's
so-
just going up
yeah.
and down with the reel. And I was like, oh, I can't kill it. And I was like, oh, but I don't have any other guns. And I got killed like 3 or 4 times in the same place trying to use this gun. I was like this is taking away the fun. So then I put it down to easy.
You know,
and
it
did the rest
gets
of the
easier
game.
if you keep dying. Like,
Oh, really?
you'll spawn with like, next time you spawn, there'll be a good gun next to you, or like you'll have a painkiller in your inventory, or just to make it a little bit so you don't get stuck for too long.
It takes away the red dot sight.
yeah. The red dot sight and the torch as well. I don't like the torch. I didn't like any of the attachments.
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no
Even
buttons
like
to turn them
the one where you look down the scope as well. I was talking about
Yeah.
the one which is just like the laser you see on.
Yeah, I know the
screen.
one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but
the
yeah,
green
all of
laser.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really. Then also the laser changed from green to red.
To red
at
if you
some
die.
point.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, so I changed it down to easy after that. And then there was another moment as well where you're in a gun. I think you're in a tram and they turn all the lights off. And I was once again like, oh, they're trying to make me do something different. But I kind of found that the way to do it is just to stay in cover and poke out and shoot, which kind of seemed to go against, like, because I felt like the game almost wanted me to be running around and diving and stuff, but that the game was so brutal. I never wanted to experiment. I just wanted to like stay tucked under cover because you would take so much damage when you poked out.
A lot of the reviews said that at the time as well. They were like, the old Max Payne games didn't have cover systems because you're meant to be like moving around.
Yeah.
And also, I think if you play on hardcore or like old school, you don't have a cover system anymore. It takes it away. But
Yeah.
It's the cover system. I thought was okay. I didn't.
No,
I
it
used to
worked.
spray out. You know, the spraying. You don't look and you aim. Yeah, but I know. But a lot of people were complaining about it at the time. Like, oh, it's not a real Max Payne game.
Yeah, like I do understand that if you played like, I mean, I did play the first one, but don't have I didn't have a strong love for it. As I could see, if you're used to playing like a super fast paced game and then you suddenly go and play it and it's turned into a cover shooter, and this is after Gears of War and stuff, and which started the big wave of cover shooters. You might be like, oh, the cover shooter's taken over my my type of game as well. I could understand that, but it all worked fine, the cover system.
We've actually got quite a lot of questions about. Well, all the questions that we got were about the actual gameplay itself. Didn't get that many this time. But there's someone called Titanium wrote in and said, do you think the game holds up well to modern third-person shooters? And I do. I think if it came out today and it was at least in 4K, it would look as good as and play as well as a modern game.
Yeah, I think graphically, like voice acting, there's what I said about like, I didn't find the story particularly strong, and I kind of said about what, some of those lines I just were a bit like, yeah, I bet I'd have probably found that really cool when I was like 14, but now I'd find it a bit cringy. And then in terms of the gunplay, like I would have, what annoyed me now would have annoyed me back then. So it's not like an aging thing. I just don't like Rockstar shooting very much. I don't like the lock-on mechanic.
Yeah, so okay, we have another question like that actually.
Okay.
What do you think of Rockstar as a company? Do you prefer their more story-focused games, such as Red Dead 2? I guess this is also sandbox style like GTA 5. So this is the last Rockstar game I've ever played. I've never played anything newer than this.
So you never played GTA? What is that? Did you played Red Dead Redemption 1?
Neither of them. Neither
Okay.
Red Dead. I haven't played GTA 5 either.
No, so Bully would have been before this. Did
Way
you play
before
Bully?
this, yeah. No.
Yeah. Just PS2.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I played GTA 5, Red Dead 1, and I played a bit of Red Dead 2. I think Red Dead 2, for what I dislike about this in terms of they're going for like such a level of realism and polish, and Red Dead 2 does that, and I think it just hurts the pacing so much to where it's not fun. And then that is the antithesis of a super open world game in some way, and it's reactive, and these random events will happen and you can choose what to do. But then as soon as you get into a mission, and it'll be like, try and find a good place to set up camp, and then it would do a big circle of like specifically here and anywhere else, you know. And so I feel like Red Dead's mission are bad open world games, but I feel like I would be more excited about Rockstar making an open world games, because I feel like that's what they're good at. And I did enjoy GTA 5, and I'd probably say GTA 5 is my favorite Rockstar game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like for getting nostalgia of like, you know, Free and Vice City and San Andreas, I think that's their best game that I've enjoyed, you know, mostly.
That
going to get some
was
comments
from
about that.
Goldfield 03. I forgot to mention Blake Obama presidency. Quite
no
exciting,
relation.
isn't it? Yeah, writing in. Do you think the different style of gameplay compared to the first two games helped or hurt this game?
Go on, you take this one.
I think that. Well, I just think this game, it did really well. It made loads of money, and it was critically did well. So I think that, yeah, it was better than the previous two that I don't know. I looked back today to see if there was like any kind of modern mods or anything for the old twos to see if I could play them today. And I was like, God, they do look pretty rough. And even like the bullet diving is like not as good. Like Max Payne 1, he barely even leaves the ground. He almost slides, you know? So yeah, I think this is definitely... I'd love to see Rockstar do something like this again, where they put all their time and effort into something that's cinematic and, you know, closed off rather than open world.
Like, I feel like I'd love to have this game with those environments and like the destruction and the soundtrack and the style, but just with shooting. Like, imagine it with like, I know it's a first-person shooter, but remember Fear? Mm-hmm. Imagine like that shooting in like that world. Like, I think I would have enjoyed it so much more. But like the main thing you're doing is shooting. So I killed 1,431 enemies in my playthrough. Okay, so that's about 143 per hour, and considering of every hour, at least about 20 minutes is cutscenes. I'd say at least.
Wow,
so
God, psycho.
And then the fact that I just didn't enjoy the shooting very much, it made a lot of it a bit of a slog for me.
That's crazy, man. I can't believe you didn't enjoy the shooting. That's the main bit of the game.
But I just don't get how, because you got to get headshots, and I'm like, just give me like, you know, just a normal sort of aim assist, you know, that I can adjust. Like, why in a game where it's so precise and about getting headshots, and then it's locking onto the body? And I get that if it automatically locked onto the head, that wouldn't work either, because it would be too easy. But I feel like there's a solution, and by 2012, that solution had already been found and was standard in Gears of War and Uncharted and, you know, all of the others that came out. I just feel like I don't know why they're so stubborn to stick with this control scheme.
Even the multiplayer playlists are split by free aim and softlock as well. Yeah. So even that's like, it's
but even
like
free aim is so, yeah, and then because then it's got the aim acceleration stuff. So it's even that isn't like a normal third person game. Like, because I played around with those settings so much to try and get it in a way that I could like it. Yeah. And, you know, I don't think, you know, the gunplay is what makes Uncharted great. But even that style and that level of animation, but then speed and movement, I think I would have loved this game so much more. Because they look amazing with the way you move, but it's so much more responsive.
Yeah, like they've nailed it, like the animation gameplay priority, whereas Max Payne's very much like, you're going to watch our animations.
Yeah. Like I want to sprint and like vault over something while still shooting. All those cool moments where it goes in slow-mo and you're getting shots. And I love those moments. I thought they were actually really cool. Like I enjoyed them. But I want that to be the gameplay, not like, hey, we're going to, you know, take gameplay away and, you know, just let you aim and kind of go for it. Another little bugbear. After every cutscene, even little tiny cutscenes like opening a door, it always switch you back to your pistols. And after every cutscene,
or he dropped the gun.
To my gun.
He dropped the decent gun, and it'd be like, "Where's that gun? That's just gun. I had something really good."
every little tiny moment, I'm just like, "Oh, I'm gonna switch back."
God, yeah, I can't believe how much you didn't like this game. I was having the time of my life playing this. I was like,
I knew how much you liked this game. I've been talking to my partner about it. I've been stressed about doing this podcast because I really didn't like this game. So I played it back in the day, and I remembered I really didn't like it, but I couldn't remember if I'd finished it because, as we were saying earlier, if I bought a game, I would finish it because games are expensive and I didn't have money. So I couldn't remember if I'd finished it or not. It got to a part in the game, like the airport and stuff, and I was like, I have zero memory of this. I absolutely didn't finish it. I didn't first time I played it. And I was like, you know what? This is Ollie's pick. I'm going to go like open mind. Maybe I'm going to have a different opinion. And I think I enjoyed it less this time now. I'm a little bit older. I'm so sorry, Ollie. I
didn't develop it. It's fine. I didn't develop it.
Yeah. But there's loads of stuff I appreciated in it that still really holds up.
You're saying that you don't think Max is cool. Like, I think he's cool the same way that I think like Snake is cool from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Like, he's a bit of a goon, but that kind of makes me like him more. Do you not feel that way about Max? Like, he's such a dude. He's such a cool guy.
I love the character of him.
Yeah.
It's more like I hear the writers too much. I hear them trying to think like, here's a really clever line to show how clever we are, but done like one or two of them like thrown in where they fit nicely.
Yeah.
But when there's like so many of them forced in, it really feels like what I said earlier. It's like someone trying really hard to be cool, which is which just doesn't work because that is the one way to not look cool. But as a character, I did like him.
They also recorded multiple lines for each bit, so if you did die, you'd hear something new.
Yeah.
And also the amount of context-sensitive lines that were like, you're picking up painkillers, and it'll say like, oh, it's something to ease the pain. But like, you pick up painkillers.
Breakfast of champions.
You pick up the painkillers on the boat, and it'd be like, oh yeah, the boat was always stocked up. Like, he has a line for everything.
And you pick him up in an apartment, he's like, I feel really bad about stealing their medication if everyone wasn't trying to kill me. It's like, and that's cool. And that's, once again, a level of polish that, you don't really see much today. I wouldn't go as far as to say, like, no matter how much you polish a turd, it's still a turd.
Oh, come on.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say I feel like it is style over substance for me, and it's really super well done and high production values in a lot of areas. But I didn't like the actual gunplay, and then the actual story itself, while presented and told really well, and the transitions to flashbacks was, to this day, still great. Like, what was underneath just didn't engage me.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay. Can we get to the quotes? Your quotes bit.
Yeah. So I actually have made you a quiz.
Okay.
It's called Max Saying.
All right.
Like Payne, but saying.
Oh, like saying or sane? Is it
like saying?
Okay.
So what I've got here is a bunch of quotes from Max Payne. I've done it from all three games to make it a bit trickier.
Okay.
And a bunch of quotes that I've written. And you need to guess which ones are his lines and which ones are my lines. And one of them has got a blank in it because it's...
You should have called it the Payne Guy, because it's like Payne or Guy.
Max Guy. All right. Quite an easy one to start with, I think. I'm not going to do the voice. I thought about it. I'm not going to do it. Right. This town had more smoke and mirrors than a strip club dressing room.
That's Max Payne 3.
That is Max Payne 3. Well done. A barely recovering alcoholic and an unarmed pregnant woman. We were hardly a SEAL team.
Max Payne 3.
That is Max Payne 3.
Yeah. I've like finished playing it like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get easy ones to start with.
Okay.
The coffee shop smell was so strong, it was strong enough to build a garage on.
I mean, I have no memory of that. Could that be a Max Payne? That's definitely not Max Payne 3. I'm going to say you made that up.
That is one of mine. That is one of my lines. Yeah, well done. Go on, 3 for 3. Well done. Okay. Throw the rules out the window. Odds are you'll go that way too.
Ooh. I think that's you.
Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry, it wasn't. No, that was Max Payne 1. That was Max Payne 1.
Tricked you.
I tricked myself.
I won.
That's from Max Payne 1, I think. Okay. Next one. There's 9 of these, by the way. Okay, next one. Being in the cell was a bit like being in a casino, with no clocks and no change in the lighting. But I had more to lose than a bet, and no one was bringing me cocktails.
It's so sad. I think that's you, but it really sounds like one of theirs.
Okay, so what are you saying?
I know, yeah, I think it's you.
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
But then.
It's a good one though, isn't it?
I know. I could hear when I'm hearing it and or reading that line, whatever. All I'm hearing is the effort the writer came through to try and think about what could it link to, and that's when I hear Max Payne talk. I don't hear the character. I hear the writer thinking about what's the cool way we could mix this into the location that he's in.
Yeah. Okay. He was trying to buy more sand for his hourglass, but I wasn't selling any.
I think that's Max Payne 1 or 2.
It's Max Payne 1 or 2. I don't know which one it's from. It's from one of them. All right.
It's specifically 1 or 2.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's a dog-eat-dog world, and the rest of the time it's the other way around.
Ooh, I'm gonna say that's the game.
That was me.
That's good. I like that.
Right. Guns never settle anything. They're just a fast curtain to a bad second act.
Ooh. This is, I don't think it's Max Payne 3. I'm gonna say that's you.
That was. Right, okay, last one. You're doing pretty well. You've only got one wrong. I had a hole in my second favourite drinking arm.
That's
and the
Max
only
Payne 3.
Yeah. That's such a good line.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a hole in my second favourite drinking arm, and the only way we were likely to get blank back was in installments. I was like, that's so good.
No, they did have some genuinely good one, but then some. I think it's when it ties it so. It was the football level in particular, but then here's a few that just stood out for me, for various reasons. I won't do the voice either, but the voice does do a lot to these quotes. I will say. It does. They were so this is when you're in the disco, and it says they were coming around to cut me off, and sure enough, I soon had some company on the dance floor. And then
great.
When he's on a tram at the airport, everyone wanted a ticket for the Max Payne Express.
Yes, I almost put that in this because I was like, that's so good, it deserves reading out.
But when you say it's so it's entertaining, I guess. Yeah. It's entertaining.
It's if you're watching an action film and they say a line like that, you're like, that's brilliant because it's so stupid.
But there's so many, and then this last one is kind of the one that you wrote, and I said that really sounds like one of theirs. Yeah. This is one where it sounds like they're trying painfully hard to be clever. When it's the middle brother Victor had just walked in. He was a local politician. Guy was smoother than an oil slick on an iceberg, and just about as toxic.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they're absolutely owning what they're trying to do. They're not pulling any punches there. They're we're leaning into this as hard as we possibly can.
I feel like they're trying to be earnest and want it to be so cool and gritty.
Do you think
though.
So? Rockstar?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, maybe I'm reading it wrong, and maybe because I thought I was enjoying it on a level not intended. Maybe I'm not. Maybe this is what they intended.
It has a dark comedy edge to it because there is jokes in it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking back to Max Payne 1 and the whole film noir detective story. These are the sorts of lines that you'd hear. I mean, I just managed to pull some up. Yeah, I don't know. I really appreciated them. I really like Max as a character, and the whole style of the game just completely worked on me. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
And when it's the dialogue in, so those quotes, what we're saying, these are kind of voiceover from Max, talking over what's happening, and he doesn't talk like that to the same extent in the game. He's not all, he gets all poetic when looking back, but in the game it is much more kind of straight dialogue, and it's good motion capture, good performance. The overall the voice acting's really done, and feels quite nicely authentic with the setting in Brazil. Apparently they went and spent a lot of time kind of researching kind of the different gang culture and the police and stuff, and that you can see that all comes across, I think, quite nicely.
It's quite good that it doesn't come across as a downer considering how grim it actually is.
Yeah,
they somehow managed to carry it through 10 hours of it not being this is the most depressing thing I've ever seen, because it is if you think about it. But
I think it's the sunshine. I think the setting and it being sunny and bright, and great environment, fighting through Chinese restaurants and stuff, and some of the locations you go to. But I feel there are a few straight up set pieces, when there's an area where you're kind of sniping and trying to cover someone and stuff. But I wanted more variety. It felt like, you know, it does the thing when you enter a room and you can see there's like a bit of horizontal cover and a bit of vertical cover, and you're like, okay, it's a gunfight. And I always just found myself going to the nearest bit of cover and not really having a reason to move from it, and I just would poke up and shoot them all. I wanted a reason to flank around, or to like it to throw in a weird, you know, like I said, when they filled the room with smoke, I was like, they're changing it up, but then it never really meant to something. The one time where I think they really did it well was during the flashback when you're in the church, and then there's a guy like up in a balcony shooting
above you. Yeah.
And then you have to flank around to get him. But then the cool part is then all the other enemies are rushing in to shoot your mate, and you're up above them, and they're no threat to you at all. You're just shooting them all in the back.
Yeah,
and I was like, that was quite a cool set piece moment where they did it in gameplay completely, which I appreciated.
I kind of felt like the game only has one trick, which is the shooting, the slow-mo, the whole combat mechanic. But for me, it does that one trick so well that I was prepared to like do it for 10 hours straight. Yeah. Whereas I can see that if you didn't like that one trick, you'd be like, oh, great, another gunfight. Whereas I was like, oh, yes, like I get to go and do another one. Like I get to go and use a bottle as a silencer or whatever it is that he does at one point.
Yeah, because that would work.
I did find that whole section with the in the hotel with the like human trafficking and like what was going on? It kind of
came out of nowhere, didn't it? As in, like, there was no lead up to that, and it does that all the time.
And then they pick him up.
There was no lead up to that, and then there's that villain with the helicopter. I was like, so are you one I've seen before? Because I feel like we've got a history, but I'm losing track now. You're not the one with the scar, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that whole section was almost like they came up with a really good idea, and then they were like, how are we gonna get this into our next game?
Because it is quite horrific.
It's awful. Yeah, and Max is like actually like distressed by it, considering all the stuff that he's seen, and he's actually like, this is awful. I don't like.
And but then once again, like, one of the things, you blow up the building while you're on it, and then it's doing the thing where the buildings kind of get destroyed where you're on it, and I was like, okay, this is Uncharted 2 territory. They could do this, but that was a bit of a letdown. The camera would kind of shake, maybe something would get destroyed,
and he'd fall over.
Yeah, but then it would just kind of go straight into just normal gunplay. Like, I wanted it to be, you know, I mean, I'm sure, you know, it took them 6 years to make, you know, maybe we're asking a bit too much to add that in, but it kept teasing me with that it's going to play with the formula, but it didn't. And like, I'll be honest, when I went to play this game, I was never really looking forward to starting a play session. Yeah. And I've spent the last couple of weeks almost feeling like a super spy, because I've messaged you being like, oh, I'm got to this level, but never, we're always very careful not to talk about the game we're playing. But I always felt like I was like cheating on you and deceiving you, because you know, you had no idea I wasn't enjoying it.
Well, I mean, that's fine. It's part of it, isn't it?
Can we talk about the airport? Can we talk about the scene in the terminal when the music comes in? Yeah. Because I feel like that's probably a high point for you and me.
That's like, I feel that's like iconic.
Yeah.
Now. But even when I played it back recently, I was like, this is still as brilliant as it was when I first did it. Even though it's a bit of a weird place for cover, it's quite open, and it's like, well, where do I move to?
Well, it's quite nice because it's one of the few times where, because it is so contained normally, there's like the lower level and an upper level, and you can switch between them. You can take cover on the walker later, and you'll be moving along while in cover and then shooting, which was quite cool. And then, this music comes in, and there's the band called
Health. They're called Health.
Yeah, who did most of the soundtrack comes in, and I quite like the song, and it fit it really well, and it was really great. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of, you know, I kind of got used to the gunplay at that point, and I enjoyed it. But I killed everyone in the room, and then I had to leave the door, and I was on the upper level, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I could dive over the ledge to get down. Yeah. And I did, and then I died, and I had to do the whole section again.
No, what? Oh my God.
Which is obviously my own fault, but I was like, oh no.
It's quite high.
Yeah, I know. It shouldn't have killed me. Like, maybe I thought it might take away a bit of health.
Yeah.
But it just completely killed me. And I was like, then it put me back to the start. And I was like, oh, playing it through a second time's kind of hurt this moment a bit.
Did you jump and slide down the middle of the escalators?
No, I just went over like one of the handrails.
So, you know, like the bit where you go down a couple of floors and escalators, if you dive onto the middle section, you can slide on your front.
See, that's what I want more. I want that as just a move that you can do. Maybe a meter's powering up separate to slow. Like just let me do it whenever I want. I want to, you're saying about the bit with the trolley. I want to be able to, if there's any trolley or wheelie chair in the office, I want to run and like slide and shoot. Like I just want that as a mechanic, like throughout the whole game.
Max Payne 2 had a bit more of a kind of, you could like level up the slow-mo system. So if you got it full and then keep doing it, it would change color. And then you could do things like spin as you're reloading to like dodge bullets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
then,
there's like a clear, like the room type.
Yeah, but then they just kind of got rid of all that for the third one.
Yeah. Because I think that would make me enjoy it. And that would also, I think, justify the lock-on system a bit more. Because I felt like, oh, they've added the lock-on system because you're moving so fast and you're diving and stuff. You'd need lock-on because it'd be too difficult to aim.
Yeah.
But then when you're diving, it does slow-mo, which is the easy time to get headshots anyway. And then the rest of the time, you're so slow. Like, it doesn't... I don't know why they had that system. It feels like that would be useful if you are super fast, that it would be too hard to aim otherwise.
Actually, yeah, speaking of the slow-mo, so I played some of the multiplayer, and the slow-mo carries over into the multiplayer as well, which obviously is like, how on earth does that ever work? Because you're moving in slow motion. So basically what happens is, if you see someone or they see you, and you're in slow-mo, then they'll go into slow-mo as well. But their aiming speed will also be slowed down unless they activate their own, in which case it will be the same speed as yours.
Okay.
Like, it's as simple as that. So you're moving around.
Does it work in terms of
works
like,
great.
Is it fun?
Yeah. So me and Chris played a bit of multiplayer, which actually the controls are different in multiplayer as well. It's much more like gameplay first, animation second. So like it looks a bit weird as well because you're not used to seeing Max like moving really fast. But we played some co-op, which is you have a couple of levels from the game, which is just like a wave-based horde thing. And then you can earn grit, which is like their currency, by doing things like shooting people in the head. And then you can use that to buy guns and upgrades and stuff like that between rounds. And like, it's fine. It's not really that amazing. Yeah. But the weird thing is as we're talking about this, I'm starting to think like, what was this game's contemporaries? Like, what else came out at the same time as this that we can compare it to? And I think Uncharted 2 might have done.
Yeah.
Which is like that's an incredible game. I didn't realise they came out so close together.
But I enjoy Uncharted more because there's so many more moments in gameplay, whereas this, like, I feel like it had some top quality cutscenes, but then I didn't enjoy the gameplay. And I think maybe like I can't use the like, oh, it's an older game excuse to justify stuff, because when I compare it to its contemporaries, there's, you know, a fair few, you know, we'd kind of worked out shooting on controllers by that time, really.
Yeah, I agree.
I think so.
Should we list it?
Well, a few more things I want to mention.
Okay,
so I found out that
further,
no, these are good things. So maybe the best part in the game. So you know when you get shot and you would die and you get your last chance to kill someone, and then if you do that, you're like left lying down on the floor. Okay. Do you know you can just keep rolling? Like when you're on the floor.
What do you mean, like rolling left and right?
Yeah, so if you just spin the camera, you can just keep on going, rolling, and even if you hit like a wall, you kind
so
of like
his movement of his arms will make him roll. Do you mean?
Okay. So you're using your aim like analog stick rather than your mover. So I was thinking, this is just like a best of 3 challenge in the making here, like trying to get for a level right. So I spent a lot of time just rolling around the floor, and I found that genuinely really entertaining.
What about sliding downstairs? If you dive into some stairs, you'll just slide down on your front.
Oh, I didn't do that. I wish I did do that. Another thing, the lead producer is Steve Martin. Just made me laugh. Just dumb, but
what? Steve Martin?
Yeah, not the Steve Martin. It's just someone else called Steve Martin. But that just made me laugh, the idea that Steve Martin produced this.
I genuinely was like, what?
I was thinking of like, I was always going to do a quiz of like, who was the producer? Is it like Steve Martin, Tom Hanks? You know, just list them and you'll be like, what? And then the other thing is, I kind of want to ask this, I think, for almost every game now, because I find it interesting. But if you were to plan a next Max Payne game, like what would you want it to be and who would you want to make it?
Jesus, oh my God. I think I'd have to do a prequel. I don't think this is done now. Maybe something with him being a detective or a cop.
Okay.
Would be pretty
before
cool.
Max Payne 1?
Before Max Payne 1, yeah. But then he wouldn't be depressed.
Yeah.
So he'd lose that. Maybe he'd be really, like, chipper.
Happy-go-lucky. Just like
good morning, everyone. Like he's like really upbeat.
He's doing all of his quotes, going like, "It was another beautiful day, and I was feeling so happy." Like,
and he's like, "Oh, I've got a headache," and they're like, "Oh, do you want some pills?" He's like, "Oh, not for me. I don't take anything like that."
He gave me a donut, and it didn't have any holes in it, just like my life.
Yeah. I think, yeah, maybe something like that. They can't do another game. Like, by the end of the game, he's like done.
Yeah. So you think that's why they're not doing? Because as you say, it was hugely successful and critically acclaimed. Do you think it's the fact that the story's just wrapped up? You just think Rockstar are too, Rockstar have a lot of integrity with their story and they don't follow trends. If you look at Red Dead 2, like that's not. If that's not an easy game to make for the masses, they could have done something very, much more mainstream, despite how many I'm sure it sold. So yeah, do you think they won't ever do it again?
I think maybe GTA makes too much money. But I think actually it had like 4 DLC packs. Like I think it was pretty successful, yeah. But then GTA came out and just eclipsed everything that Rockstar's ever done.
Yeah, of course. So should we list it then?
Yeah.
Okay. So as always, do you want to read through what we have on the list so far?
Yeah. So okay. Number 7, we've got Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Number 6 is Onimusha Warlords. Number 5 is The Forgotten City. 4 is Halo Infinite. 3 is Ooblets. 2 is Doom, and 1 is Disco Elysium. Which, by the way, did you see that's being Amazon have bought the rights for that? Disco Elysium, and they're making a TV show.
No.
They just announced it yesterday.
Oh, I wonder if I'd want to watch that.
Could you imagine like all of his different parts of his mind? Like, one of them's played by like The Rock.
Yeah, Chris Pratt,
Catherine Tate,
Steve Martin.
You had
to do something after Max Payne 3, right?
Yeah.
You were so confused for a minute. You were like grappling with like, what? Like what?
Well, I was thinking like, 'cause I know Max Payne had a film, so I was like, maybe he somehow got involved.
Well, maybe. I mean, I assumed it's not. Maybe it was. No, that's cool though. Right. Okay. So I mean, there's going to be a compromise made here.
There is. Where would you put it? Because I always go first.
So, I actively, as I said, when I went to play it, I didn't want to play it.
Yeah.
The only other game that I had feelings of that was Harry Potter of the Chamber of Secrets. Every time I went to play Onimusha, I wanted to play it. So I'd put it at 7 and then Harry Potter at 8.
Okay, let's see how that looks, which I think is insane, but let's have a look.
Yeah, from how much you loved the game, like I'm not saying I expect it to go there.
Yeah.
That's where like I really enjoyed playing Onimusha. But Max Payne 3, I didn't enjoy playing Max Payne 3. Despite certain parts, me thinking are incredible of it, I didn't enjoy playing or the cutscenes or the story.
I was playing Max Payne 3 and I was like, I'm gonna buy the graphic novel because this is so cool. I need more of it. Like that's how much I loved it.
Okay.
I would put it, bearing in mind what you're saying, I would have put it here. In between Halo Infinite and The Forgotten City.
Okay, well that's I really thought you were going to put it one above Halo.
Well, I'm thinking about what you're saying. I'm not. If it was just up to me, and it was my personal list, I'd probably put it here or here.
Okay,
so
I was thinking it was a number 1 for you. Okay.
No, I mean Doom was so good, wasn't it? Disco Elysium was so good. Like these Doom and Disco Elysium are games.
Doom has better shooting on a controller than Max Payne 3 by a mile. The gunplay's better in Doom than Max Payne 3.
Do you know how many videos and articles are online that are like Max Payne 3 is the pinnacle of third-person shooting? Like that come out within the last year.
It's obviously like you loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't. So it's not like an objective thing. Like it's, like people like and dislike. It's the same with when the first Killzone games came out. Some people were saying, it's all sluggish and horrible. Like I kind of liked that in that game. Mm-hmm. But in this, I think it's too down the middle of it's half trying to be gritty and realistic and grimy and stuff, and then half trying to be stylish and slow-mo, and he's diving over roofs and getting headshots and dangling from helicopter. And I'm like, you got to pick. If it picked either side, I think I'd have enjoyed it way more.
Yeah. You are right I hadn't really thought about that, but you are right that it is exactly in the middle of being like The Matrix and Red Dead. Basically, that's where it sits.
Yeah, and then I like both sides. Like, you know, I think for this, it had to have leaned more on the stylish side because it's Max Payne, and Max Payne, when you say Max Payne, oh, the slow motion dive game, you know, like that.
Yeah,
I think it had, like, they can't take that out. It should have gone that side. But, you know, I'm super happy playing, you know, I love, you know, I always mention it, The Last of Us is kind of the first thing that comes to mind. You know, they're doing the same thing, really hyper animation, and it's, you know, and I feel like it works so much better in that because it's leaned fully into that, and it's so immersive in that way. Whereas this, I felt it straddled both. So
okay, so I would put it here. Which, sorry for audio listeners, I'll put it between 4 and 5.
Yeah, so this is underneath Halo Infinite, but above the Forgotten City.
Yeah, and you'd put it down here. So why don't we split the difference and put it in 6th?
Yeah, so this would make it the Forgotten City, Max Payne 3, and then Onimusha Warlords.
Yep, and then Harry Potter in last.
6th place, is that a lot?
6th place. Yeah, let's leave it. That's good. 6th place, we've done it. We've got it in there. I can't believe how much you didn't like it. Like, I literally was like, this is a winner.
It's just split from above my head.
Mate, you tried doing a Halo podcast, so you were wearing a Halo t-shirt. Good thing I didn't come dressed as Max Payne like I planned to.
No, we're joking. We're going to shave our heads and stuff we were joking about before the podcast.
Well, I'm glad you didn't hate it so much that my Max Saiyan game was a complete disaster.
No, I wouldn't have finished the game if we weren't going to talk about it. But I always think these podcasts are more interesting when we have, you know, disagreements or, you know, not disagreements, but, you know, we liked different things and disliked different things. So I was, you know, I thought this is going to make a good conversation, and I was interested to see, you know, your points, and none of what you're saying is surprising. There's nothing that you said that I disagreed with. You know, there's like, the game has so many merits. I just wish the shooting was, you know, more what I would like from a shooter. Yeah,
mine's more like, you know, the sum of its parts make up for the fact that it has a few flaws. For me, it's like, just an overall package. I bet if I played it on PC, I would have loved it so much more. If I could just free aim and with a mouse and keyboard and turn off aim acceleration or anything and just have that precision, like that I think I would have enjoyed the gunplay then, rather than not enjoying it. And it wouldn't have saved the story or anything else for me, but I think it would be higher up on my list. But, you know, I did play it all on controller, so that was my experience with it. Would you recommend it to anyone?
I would, not like as a blank statement, but I would if someone said like, hey, I'm looking for a cool third person shooter, I'd say I'd suggest it. You know, but explain about what it is and say play it on PC.
Yeah, fair. It was actually the first game I ever bought. My first ever paycheck, I bought Max Payne.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sure I probably got it secondhand because I bought everything secondhand. I'd never really buy a new game. So I probably played it a couple years after it came out. I probably didn't play it in 2012. But yeah, there we go. Another new addition to the list. Did you want to mention what we're playing next podcast?
Yeah, so we're playing the remake of Ratchet and Clank, the 2016 PS4 version, with a guest.
Yeah, we have a special guest. We won't reveal yet who it is, but they were mentioned at some point during this podcast. So if you were listening carefully...
It's Max Payne.
It's Steve Martin.
It's Steve Martin.
Yeah, so they were mentioned. So if you are listening carefully, you might have a bit of a clue. So as usual, do you want to kind of mention how people can leave any comments or any thoughts, any points that they have about Ratchet and Clank?
The easiest way to do it is on Twitter. We are at the bonus points, and we'll put out a tweet about Ratchet and Clank, and you can just reply to that. I sometimes do it on YouTube as well as like a community post. I've been doing that recently, so you can reply to that as well. They're the kind of the best ways to get in touch with us. But if you just want to follow us, it's at the bonus points on Twitter, Instagram, and at the bonus points YT on TikTok.
Yeah, brilliant.
Everything.
And Yeah, please talk about that game, but also anything about Ratchet and Clank in general. Our guest as you might guess, this is their selection, is a Ratchet and Clank super fan. So if you want to talk about any of the old PS2 games, the Rift Apart, the PS5 games, or even the movie, I'm sure all of that stuff's going to come up in conversation. So if anything you want to say, good or bad, about Ratchet and Clank, we will present it towards our guest. And we'll be playing the game, of course, ourselves. And trying to put it on the list.
Could you imagine if he was like, I picked it because I hate it?
Yeah, I want to make you suffer.
I hate that little Ratchet so much.
Yeah, come on, let's all get in a corner and like bash this game.
Yeah. You finally give me a platform for my disgusting views. No, he won't be like that. He loves it. Right.
That's going to be it for this episode of the Bonus Points podcast. Of course, every other Friday we're going to have our Best of 3 series where we're doing a bunch of weird challenges and a bunch of different games. So if you haven't checked that out, feel free to go and do so. If you're listening to the audio only version, there's a video version on YouTube as well. And if you're watching the video version, then I think this is the best place to watch it. I like it if you watch the video version because it takes ages to edit it. That's going to be the end of this episode here. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.